the Red Hot Chili Peppers have a new album out, and let's talk about it. So it's called Return of the Dream Canteen. The Red Hot Chili Peppers, if you don't know them, they play funk rock, alternative rock, very famous band. This album came out October 14, 2022. It's number 13 in their discography, and only 6 months after their last album, which is this one here, Unlimited Love. And so when this one came out, produced by Rick Rubin, John Frusciante came back to the band. I did a whole video on this, but I'll just give you a brief rundown. Released on Warner Brothers, and this was a really good album. I enjoyed this a lot. This is a CD I play often. During these sessions, they recorded about 50 songs. So they have more than another album worth of material, so that's why they released this one, A Return of the Dream Canteen. They probably have like another album in here somewhere, which will come out maybe like next year, but who knows? I don't know anything about that. But this one, I enjoyed a lot. Now, this album, the Return of the Dream Canteen, is very mellow. It's not bad. It's decent, but it just like lacks some of that like old school Chili Peppers sound and more of that like new modern Chili. So I'm gonna do this a little differently. I'm just gonna talk about the ones that reminded me of like that like old school Chili Peppers, and then the ones that reminded me of like the modern Chili Peppers, and that's kind of like how this album is divided. So I think the first single, Tip of My Tongue, that was kind of like that, a very funky type song. It's like very upbeat, and just like that funky, the bass guitar, the atmospheric breakdown. That was a good song. It's a little like mellow, but it still had that like late 80s like energy. And then the next song, Peace and Love, another one. It's a little more, it's mellow, but it's still like that funky, had that funky bass by Flea. Everything Flea does on the bass is great. So those two were really good. Then the song, next single, Eddie, that one was very good. It's kind of reminded me of like that like 90s like Californication type of sound. Very mellow. It's a tribute to Eddie Van Halen, so they mentioned the Sunset Strip and how he married his TV wife and all different things about Eddie. Talking about David Lee Roth at one point. It's it's pretty laid back. You get clean guitars. This is probably like the best like guitar song with like where John Frusciante shines. He has a really great like guitar solo, kind of like a psychedelic solo, and I like this one a lot. So that one was really good. Then the next song is called Fake as Fuck. It's kind of mellow, but it does have a little of that like 80s funk and like 90s rock style. And just pretty cool like funky guitars, like it's a little slow, but then you got the bass. Anthony Kiedis does like that singing and the rap. So that one is pretty good. Album in general is mostly very laid back, kind of relaxing, and more of that like modern style Red Hot Chili Peppers. So the other ones, Reach Out. That one's pretty good because it has like the clean guitars, and it has like the heavy guitar. So that one actually I liked pretty much. It kind of has that like singing with like that almost like rap, and then like the backing vocals with John Frusciante. I think he does some vocals to this one. So that one was pretty good. Towards the middle and in the end of the album, you do get like a little filler. So we got Bella, which is pretty cool. It's a girl who wants to live in LA. That one's okay. Roulette, that's a love song, clean guitars, just like singing. That one's okay. My Cigarette, a little weird. It has a repetitive chorus, so it's kind of catchy. They end like a saxophone solo. I'm not really sure who plays that, but that was a little different. Afterlife. This one, they kind of bring a little bit of that funk back, so maybe a little bit more like 90s Blood Sugar Sex Magic. But again, it had like a pretty cool funky bass, singing that like rap style. Anthony Kiedis does a little of that like scat on the songs. Shoot Me a Smile, singing some spoken parts towards the end. Handful, again, just very pop song. The drummer, that one's actually one of the standouts. It's more of a modern song, but it's like an upbeat, and it just has a little more energy to it. So that one I liked. Bag of Grins, that one's kind of weird, but you kind of got the backup singing on that one. La 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 La, that one's okay. It's a love song. Copperbelly, very mellow, and Carry Me Home, kind of like slow blues. I do like the guitar in that one. It's kind of like a grungy guitar. But that one's pretty cool. And the final song, In the Snow, it's a pop song. It's like modern, very mellow, a little weird. But the thing that stood out on this one is that Anthony Kiedis kind of like recites poetry at the end of the song. So that stood out. So anyway, it's a long album, hour and 15 minutes. So, I listened to it 3 times yesterday. So it kind of like took me a while to compile all this. But my final thoughts is it's decent, but it's not as good as this one. I think like they had the better songs on this album, and then I think their intention was to kind of save the mellower or dreamier stuff for this particular album. I think that's why they call it Return of the Dream Canteen. I guess that's my interpretation of it. I imagine they have like another like album's worth of material that will come out eventually. But I think it's good. It's not a bad album. It's maybe like a little towards like the lower half of their discography, like a little low. But I'm not saying it's a bad album. I think it's also like a grower. The first time I listened to it, and it was okay. I think by the third time, it did start to grow on me. Like some of the songs did start to, pick up or become more memorable. I think it's the type of album that you got to listen to a lot of times. And being that it's long, it's not the longest. I mean, like Stadium Arcadium was like 2.5 hours. This is basically the same length as Blood Sugar Sex Magic. It's a typical Red Hot Chili Peppers album, but it's a lot to take in. There's a lot of songs. So anyway, my final score is going to be 7 out of 10. There's some good stuff on here, but it's just not as great as the previous one. So that is all. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. Tell me what you thought of this album. And I'll be back for more new releases this weekend.